we are going to chat for a little bit. Before we talk about Backlash, to allow some people to get in here, what were we talking about just before? Bruce Pritchard, Paul Heyman. That's an interesting thing.
Yeah, I mean, over the last 48 hours or so, I mean, for context, I was on the Speeds and the Benchmark show on Friday doing my predictions. So going into this, they were pretty much going to be the same kind of predictions. But then the two days of news that have come out of the WWE have kind of changed that for me. I mean, we've got Bruce Pritchard now basically in control of both shows. We've got Paul Heyman being demoted to an on-screen character. We've got rumours that USA are fuming at Vince McMahon for letting Paul Heyman go, even though the ratings are dropping. They've been really invested in the new and exciting product that Heyman's been involved with. And then we've had the delicious rumour that Vince has already changed quite a few of the Backlash matches, even a couple of the endings. So, yeah, my predictions are pretty much out the window, I think.
It's going to be, I know, well, obviously we'll talk about the matches and Backlash, everything, but, I mean, this is... It's news that kind of I woke up to a couple of days ago and was like, oh, okay, Bruce Pritchard's in charge now. Well, creatively overseeing Raw and SmackDown. They're one show. I don't like the idea necessarily of one creative team being for two separate brands, because that to me just means that they're going to be the same show, to be completely honest. That's the biggest takeaway I have from it, whether it's Bruce, whether it's Paul Heyman, whether it's Tom, Dick, or Harry in charge. So, I don't know, it's it's a shame.
And the concern would be they made such a big deal of this kind of brand split, and then we had the stupid wild card rule, which was then quickly abolished. Then it came back in a different way, and I think it's going to get to the point where we're going to get the same stars on both shows again. It's going to be, instead of a brand split, it's going to be one kind of big roster, and we're going to see the guys that have been pushed on both shows, who have come and really kind of took the ball and ran with it. They're going to be sat back in catering again, which is sad.
Yep, no, I agree completely. Hey, Leno, I don't like that idea. I like two separate brands because more people get opportunities. I guess there's pros and cons to it all, but to me, it just means that the shows just kind of roll into one another. I like the idea of brands being separate because you get a different feel on each show. I want the two shows to be completely different from one another. There is a difference. They have an opportunity to make them different. Raw, for example, is 3 hours. I understand people don't really love that, but that's an opportunity to set yourself apart and be different from SmackDown, which is a 2-hour show. So I wish it felt, I wish it looked, I wish it sounded, I wish it was shot differently. I just wish everything was different. And two creative teams meant that it could be, and there was signs of it being different. But, you know, let's rewind a bit, Mags. Remember when, hey, thank you for the follow, Wrestle News. You got to think back to when Eric Bischoff and Paul Heyman were announced for creative. What was their title? Creative director? What was it?
Yeah,
I think like that.
I think it was creative director of Raw and creative director of SmackDown, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. When we were all like, okay, because that was in the time of the wildcard rule, when overall last year was a pretty dull year for WWE in the grand scheme. Things happen, yes, but there was a big chunk of time between WrestleMania and SummerSlam that just kind of rolled into one, and it wasn't the greatest of television. And when we got Eric Bischoff, Paul Heyman announced, it was like, ooh, maybe something's happening here. Eric Bischoff lasted as long as a cup of coffee. He was gone. Bruce Pritchard came in, whatever. I'm not the biggest Bruce Pritchard fan in the world. I never really have been. I've always loved Paul Heyman. I don't think everything he does is golden, but he has golden moments, and he does invest in the future. Bruce Pritchard is just kind of Vince McMahon 2.0 in the sense of he does what Vince wants. He's not going to argue with Vince, in my opinion. That's how Bruce Pritchard wants. He knows what Vince McMahon likes. Now, that's not saying everything that he does is bad, because Bruce Pritchard is probably in control of some of the better stuff that we've seen as well, as is Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon didn't get to the spot he's in now being a complete and utter idiot. He does have moments of greatness. They're just a little bit more sparing in the year 2020. Vince isn't producing, everything golden like maybe he once was. But it's really thrown a spanner in the works of some things, because there's a lot of people, like you said, Mags, that I'm like, they were a very much a product of Paul Heyman.
Yeah, I mean, the most notable one is Ricochet. Ricochet was someone who Paul Heyman said could possibly be world championship material, and now is barely on the main roster, and is kind of the head of main event and 205 Live, which is, for someone of his caliber, it's a kick in the pants, really.
Yeah, a lot of people, I think we're going to be like that. Sid, Leno, we'll talk about Jeff Hardy. Trust me, Mags has got a lot to unload on that segment that we've seen on SmackDown. Me too. I have some thoughts on that. One more thing that we'll talk about on the terms of Bruce Pritchard and him taking over, all of that kind of stuff. Are you frightened that with Bruce Pritchard taking over creative of both shows, that we're just going to see Raw? Which one will be promoted? What I'm going to ask you, Mags, is which one do you think will be the forefront of all these storylines, and which one is going to be the replay? Is Raw going to be treated better? Is SmackDown going to be treated better because it's on Fox? What's going to go on here if we're in that kind of world of one creative team, hypothetically?
Yeah, well, Raw has always been Vince McMahon's baby. That's it. That's always been like his flagship show. The kind of the argument that you can make, though, is that because he signed these two huge deals with USA and Fox, he's got these two masters to answer to, and I think that's probably the main catalyst to why he wants to have one full roster rather than two separate shows, because Fox want the bigger stars, USA want the bigger stars, and I can see it being so difficult to balance between those guys when you've got the likes of Brock Lesnar on one show, and then Fox are saying, no, we want him on our show, and then the same with like the likes of Drew McIntyre, Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, all that kind of stuff. So as a business, I think WWE in a place where they have to kind of break away from this brand split because they've got these two masters to serve. But the concern would be is that you're going to see the same big stars on one show, and then 5 days later you're going to see the same exact stars on another show, and there's going to be no room for growth for these up and comers that Paul Heyman has pushed. And to be fair, the up and comers that Bruce Pritchard has pushed on SmackDown as well. I think we're gonna see a lot more people sat back in catering, which is sad, because as much as I am not a huge watcher of the main roster product, that when I catch the highlights, it's always the kind of exciting up and coming wrestlers that I'm more invested in, because they're new, fresh faces. They're bringing something new to the table rather than just retreading the same path over and over again.
Yeah, I don't think. Listen, I know I'm a WWE loyalist. I love WWE I watch WWE for what it is. I don't try and overanalyze it too much. Everyone kind of knows that I just love WWE. I just do. But no matter what, I don't think anyone can argue the fact that the talent that's in that company, because there is so many talented people. The roster's stacked. We've said this for a long time, but it's the best it's probably ever been in terms of sheer talent underneath the WWE umbrella, whether you want to count NXT in that or not. Even just the main roster alone, the talent is not the issue here. A lot of the issue is more creative and some of the decisions that they make. Not all of them, but some of them. This isn't... I shit on what needs to be shit on, but I also realize that there's other audiences when it comes to WWE. You're not just trying to appease the wrestling fans. There's a casual audience that you need to please, and that's just something that I can look past, and some people can't, and that's fine. Some people want wrestling, just pure wrestling. I kind of enjoy the kind of kookiness that there is to the main roster sometimes. Not all of it, but some of it.
Yeah, you're an unabashed sports entertainment fan. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. I love the entertainment side of wrestling. I always have. The spectacle of wrestling has always been more interesting to me than the actual wrestling. And I've always said that. And I've always said that I also love pure wrestling. It's why I love NXT so much, is because that is a wrestling product. That to me isn't a sports entertainment show. And I can handle that. I like both. I just like all kinds of different. Wrestling is more than wrestling, Mags, isn't it? Really, at the end of the day, wrestling is a show.
Yeah.
So
it's a show, it's an escape, it's everything that you want it to be. If you go into watching wrestling with a mindset that you're not going to enjoy it, you aren't going to enjoy it. But if you go in, switch your brain off, you can find entertainment in pretty much any kind of wrestling, to be fair.
Yeah. I don't know if you can see the chat right now, Mags, but JPQ's here. He said a little earlier that he thought you had your shirt off, and I was like, oh man, I'd end the stream because I'd get taken down. And then Queen's in here calling me a WWE mark because she that Queen is so awful, isn't she? She's just so rude. What a rude lady.
I know. Do you know, since joining Smart to Death Radio, which you can find my shows on, she's become very pernickety as Queen.
Her crown is so it's just hovering above her head at this point. She's like, someone hold it up for me. The peasants all around.
Definitely.
We love Queen. Queen is fantastic. She's better than us.
She's by a million times better than us.
We'll one day get to that level, maybe, Mags. I don't know.
I'm just happy riding her coattails.
Oh, me too.
Into this Smart to Death Radio. She's carrying us.
I'm not even on Smart to Death Radio, and if I can get a little bit of piece of that from Queen, I'm just like, yeah, mention me on. Can you please mention me on your show, Queen? Please put me over on your show.
Can you give me a shout out?
Oh, please,
give me a shout out.
I'll send you some money on PayPal for it.
Venmo.
Oh, Queen. Hello, Queen. Hello, JPQ, Leno, Sid, everybody that's here. Thank you for joining us. Mags, are you ready to dive into some Backlash predictions?
Let's do it. Let's go for it.
All right, let's start it off, Mags. Jeff Hardy and Sheamus. We have a lot to talk about. We're probably going to be talking about this for the next hour because there is a lot to break down when it comes to the Jeff Hardy and Sheamus match. Now, all right, let's rewind back to a few weeks ago, Mags. There was an incident. Now, for anyone that doesn't know, let me run down what happened for you. Run down, see? Watch out, Elias.
Levels.
There was some kind of hit and run, allegedly. We've seen Elias on a stretcher getting loaded into an ambulance, and then all of a sudden we see police here. Renee Young's there, just being the greatest thing ever. That's, a topic for a different day. There's alcohol in a car. A car is crashed, I believe, Mags. Was it banged up, the car, or was it just because it hit Elias? I'm not really sure. And then all of a sudden, police find Jeff Hardy. He's handcuffed. He's like, oh, God, what's going on? He smells of alcohol, blah, blah, blah. He gets arrested. And the internet went into a bit of a meltdown because this is a very polarizing story. Yes, Queen, people do call it getting on the piss in Australia. Do they call that getting on the piss in the UK? I don't think they do they?
Yeah, going on the piss is when you're going out for a few bevies.
Yeah, getting on the piss, So, I guess Jeff Hardy was allegedly getting on the piss and going for a drive, which you do not do. Don't drink and drive, anybody. It's not the right thing to do. However, the internet went into meltdown. On either ends of the... I don't know how you've seen it, Mags, on Twitter, but there was either sides of the argument here of some people super for it, yeah, go for it, and some people super against it. Initially, not taking into what we've seen on SmackDown, when you've seen, well, probably you didn't see it because you don't watch SmackDown on a regular basis. When you've seen it on Twitter, what did you personally, not taking anyone else's opinions into it, what did you think about WWE going into that... diving into that story with Jeff Hardy's past?
Yeah, I mean, I did see it. I don't watch the main product live, but I do catch the highlights and stuff like that. But my initial thought was, I mean, WWE have historically always used people's real life demons as storylines, and I get it. If the wrestler can like relate to what they're talking about, you're going to get a more organic product. But I think this is very, very raw and very fresh. This is a guy who struggled with his demons for the best part of 20 years. Yeah. It was only recently that I think 2018, where he had his last kind of a big incident involving alcohol. So
it was for last me, year, wasn't it? Wasn't it when he was hurt? Yeah, it was when he was hurt. He had another drink, or he was found drunk or something in public. I'm pretty certain. I want to say.
Yeah, well, so for me, that's kind of it's touching on the very edge of morality for me. And what I found really interesting is the way WWE have approached this kind of alcoholism storyline as compared to the one on AEW with Hangman Page. Really, two totally different ways to approach the subject, and two totally different kind of backlashes they've got on social media. This one is full of the gags today, but this one has got a lot of heat for how kind of close to the bone it is, whereas the one on AEW has kind of been praised for how well it's handled the subject. I still think this storyline's got a lot more to go. And for context, I broke my regular SmackDown hiatus. It's been like almost 10 years, well, probably actually longer than 10 years that I've actually watched a live episode of SmackDown. And the first segment was not an amazing match. It was not a cool promo. It was Jeff Hardy swilling Sheamus with a litre of the strongest looking piss known to man.
Yeah, so I'll get into that segment in a minute. I'm on the team of I don't have a problem with this story. I understand why people do, and I understand it is very fresh. I don't have an issue with them using this. Jeff Hardy's been, for someone who's never been great at talking, which is Jeff Hardy, I love Jeff Hardy to bits, but he's never been a strong talker. It's not that he's terrible, but he's just never been a strong talker. However, when he has something real to sink his teeth into, he's been cutting okay promos. Even in the segment on Friday, Mags, take away all the other stuff that went on, his promo itself wasn't horrible, was it? It was pretty decent.
No.
For a Jeff Hardy promo, at least.
Yeah, the way he kind of conveyed what he wanted to say did sound a little bit forced, like he was reading a script, but you can feel the yeah, but you could feel the passion behind it. You could feel that this was something that he was very, very invested in. So, I mean, I'm like you. I'm kind of on the fence about it. I don't like the fact that WWE use people's real life demons to push storylines and to have ratings on shows, but Jeff is obviously very heavily invested into it, so he must have had some sort of input into it. He's happy to be going along doing it, so it's wrestling at the end of the day. It's not all sunshine and roses. There is real life issues.
Yeah, and this is real life. Alcoholism, being a former or current drug addict is real life. And there is people like Sheamus, who is a bully, that call you out on it. Sometimes you can't escape those demons. That's how I see this. The problem I have with it is that I'm just not finding it very interesting. Regardless of, I don't have an issue. It's not an issue with the actual context of it. It's just, I'm not into it. I'm just kind of like, it's fine. It's not doing anything, like, it's not so obscure and so controversial that I'm like, oh my God, I love it. It's just kind of floating in the middle for me. There's stuff I like more. There's stuff I like less. That's my problem I have with it. Let's talk about the actual piss segment that happened on SmackDown. I don't think it was the greatest segment ever. No, I do not. I don't think it was necessarily a bad segment. There was bits of it that was corny, but that's wrestling to me. Wrestling is kind of cheesy when you think about it. We'll talk about the actual piss here. Your boy was dehydrated as all fuck. That thing was yellow. Like, he hasn't had a glass of water in a few days. I was like, Jesus Christ, Jeff, drink some water, bud. Do something you're dehydrated as all hell. And that guy can piss on command and a lot of it. So that's a talent. So if we could take anything away, good on you, Jeff Hardy, for being able to. He wasn't. It's not like he was prepared for this. Sheamus sprung it on him last minute. Say take a pee test, and that was a lot of pee. And then he obviously threw it on Sheamus, and they brawled. We got where we needed to go, I guess, in the terms of the story. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think the best part of that actual promo was the Doctor's facial reactions. He was amazing. Absolutely amazing.
He was selling it.
And when he had hold of the pee after Jeff had relieved himself like the camel that he is,
he relieved himself. Oh boy.
The Doctor had his fingers in the pee.
Oh, he did. I did not notice that.
Yeah, it was not nice. But the one big takeaway that I got from this segment was I don't think that this is kind of the end of the story. It's not the end of the road, because the words that Sheamus was using, he still was adamant that he had nothing to do with it. Now, if his end goal was to get a match with Jeff Hardy, he's no reason to keep denying it anymore. He's got his match. He's got what he wanted. So why is he still denying it?
Because it's not him. It ain't him.
Exactly.
It's Sami Zayn.
Exactly.
That guy. The guy that did it is Sami Zayn, and we're just meant to pretend that the obvious answer is Sheamus, and another answer that WWE go with was that it was just Jeff, because sometimes they do that kind of shit. But it's Sami Zayn. That dude that did it is Sami. He wanted to take out the person that was in the IC title. Two people that are in the IC title tournament, or at least one in Elias. So that's how I think this is going. So this will prolong for a little while. The match itself, I mean, Jeff Hardy and Sheamus, it won't be bad. I don't think. I think it'll be just fine. Yeah?
Yeah, I agree. Hardy can still go. He can still put on a great match. And Sheamus is very underrated for like the big beefy brawler style wrestler. So yeah, this will be a decent match. Mm-hmm. I've got Sheamus winning it.
I've got Sheamus winning it by some kind of heel tactic.
And I think I've got. Yeah, I've got Sheamus after winning, shouting down Hardy, saying it wasn't me. So then that's where the storyline has to continue, where Hardy's still no closer to finding the truth. Yeah.
We got Extreme Rules next month, I'm pretty sure, Mag. So I would assume that they would have some kind of, I don't know, piss on a ladder match or some kind of bullshit like that. That will probably what they'll have. It'll be like, something crazy like that. And Jeff Hardy will end up winning, and then the person that did it will fight him at SummerSlam. Yeah. That's how I see this going.
But the big loser in this is Elias, because rumours have come out, I think this morning, that he's got a torn pectoral muscle and he's out for about 9 months.
Elias is one of those dudes, Mags, that every time something good happens to him or he gets a little bit of momentum, injuries happen, injured. And that's going to be his reputation, and that's going to be his downfall, unfortunately. How do you feel about stuff like that? When people get injured on I won't say he's injured all the time, because he's not, but on a regular basis, and then they don't get pushed, and then people complain. I've always been the one that's like, well, why would you want to heavily invest in someone that's always hurt? That's how I see it.
I agree with you, Josh, and it's a shame, because Elias a couple of years ago was one of the hottest things in the WWE, and you could have pinned him to be at least a mid-card champion, maybe even pushing into the higher end. But the injuries have just absolutely. Yeah, but the injuries have just absolutely decimated him, and there's no way now you could see him having a title, because you don't know when he's going to pick up another injury, and then you're going to have to kind of start the ball rolling with another champion again. So yeah, it's a shame. But to be fair, you never really saw a lot of him in the ring anyway. So it's kind of swings and roundabouts.
Is what it is, I guess. That's the only way you can really put it. But we both have Sheamus going over in some capacity, so that's how I see that going as well. We always do that, Mags. We don't even plan what matches we're going to talk about first, but we seem to always agree on the first couple of matches.
Yeah, I think there's probably going to be at least one where we differ.
Oh, we're gonna differ on some. I can already tell what we're gonna fucking differ on. We'll talk about that in a minute. Let's talk about Apollo Crews and Andrade United States Championship match. Now, I have a feeling that you're on the same page as me, as this may be one of the matches that is heavily influenced by Paul Heyman. Therefore, now longer him not being there, it kind of changed my thoughts on this.
Exactly the same. Before the Paul Heyman Bruce Pritchard news broke, I was happy to see Apollo get this push. I thought that maybe he could be the kind of person to refresh in that US title scene. But yeah, now I think that whilst he may survive this pay-per-view in terms of holding the title, I don't think he's got very long before he's back in catering.
Oh, wow. Bam. Damn. Tell us how you really feel, Mags. We got Queen and JPQ talking in the chat.
It's only because I know there's heavy rumours that Vince is not an Apollo Crews fan and he's not sold on him at all. So if he's got rid of the one person who's pushing Apollo Crews, and then Apollo's got no one there to fight his corner, it's very likely that Apollo Crews is going to fall down the roster quicker than Ricochet.
I don't like saying this very often, Mags, but I completely agree with you. I think that Apollo is one that was Paul. This is a very used term, but a Paul Heyman guy. I think that was a product of Paul Heyman. There's no way else of putting that. Andrade is one that floats. I think he would have been liked by Heyman, to be completely honest, but I think he is liked by Vince. I don't know. JPQ Slayman. Oh my god. You can see the chat as well, Mags, I'm assuming. I hope I'm not just reacting to nothing here. But it's a shame. I don't know. I know that I'm trying to get my thought process, and I keep looking at that damn comment. Friggin' JPQ. We love a good we love a good JPQ around here, though. I don't speak to JPQ on an often enough basis. JPQ, this is your open invite. You're welcome on any one of my shows. I'm sure on any one of Mags' shows.
He has 11.
What? So do you, Mags, so back off. You have just as many as I do. Oh, there was conviction in my voice then. I don't know. I didn't mean to sound as nasty as I did. Or did I? I don't know. What were we talking about? I can't remember. Neither can Vince.
Apollo Crews.
So, all right, Andrade. I have him going over.
Winning the title?
I have him winning.
Interesting. I'm gonna stand my ground and I'm gonna stick with Apollo. The only reason is I think that this Bruce Pritchard news has come so quickly that just banging the title straight back on Andrade, it would ruin the storyline that's happening with Zelina Vega's faction, where they're all kind of breaking up and disbanding. And I also think that Andrade has got bigger things in his future. I think we're going to see him push to the main event picture very soon. So I don't think that he'll lose it here to Andrade, but I do expect him to lose it even before probably Extreme Rules, maybe to someone like Angel Garza or even Humberto Carrillo.
Okay, well, I'm not at Angel Garza. I didn't earn Angel Garza. I like Angel Garza. I think he's got... That guy's going to get a rocket strapped to him soon, because I think he's got a lot of potential. But Humberto, I don't care for him very much.
He is quality. I love his little dimples.
Oh, no. That's the reason I want to hit him. I'm like, I can't stand you. I can't stand him. If you're listening, Humberto, I'm very sorry. You're very talented, but I just don't like you. So yeah, I've got Andrade winning back the United States Championship. Hey, we differed. There you go. You got a difference of opinion. Good work. Oh man, I don't want to talk about this match that much because I'm just not into it. Universal Championship match. Braun Strowman defending against Miz and Morrison in a 2-on-1 handicap match. This story has been... It's been a story, I tell you that. It's been very childish. I have not been into it. I don't know. I thought I would love Miz and Morrison when they came back, and for a hot minute, I was really into them, and I'm like, yeah, they're lame, they're corny, they're just what they were in 2008, and then all of a sudden, I've just stopped liking them, and they're just shit, and I can't stand them, and I don't know why, because I should like them. They're characters that are very much up my alley, and they're very much in my wheelhouse, because they're idiots, and they're corny, and they're cheesy, but I can't stand them. But if there's one thing I can't stand more than them two, it's that big goober Braun Strowman.
Big goober. Yeah, this is a very much a turd in the punch bowl kind of storyline. And I agree with you. I think when Morrison came back and when they had the triple threat ladder match at WrestleMania, and he did the Starship Pain onto the ladder, I thought, wow, this guy hasn't missed a beat. He's absolutely brilliant.
That was where it peaked. I was like, Miz and Morrison, yes, sign me up. And then all of a sudden, it just slowly declined. And then all of a sudden, they were going for the Universal Championship. What? Why?
Yeah, I mean, the good thing is it's a one shot. It's this storyline's going to end here at Backlash, and then hopefully they'll either have a feud between themselves, or they'll go on to back to the tag scene. But fair play to him filling this gap. I think Braun needs a dominant victory, and how dominant can you be if you're beating two people at once? So I understand the kind of idea around it. You're going to have hopefully the funny segments where Miz and Morrison are kind of like against each other, both wanting to pick up the victory or whatever. But essentially, this should be a massive Braun squash. 5 minutes of a match, Braun does his Strowman Express, runs them round, picks up a victory, and then hopefully I feel dirty actually saying this, but hopefully we'll get the Fiend come back, and we'll have someone who's challenging Braun Strowman for that title, someone who can actually. It seems more realistic that they can get a victory against him.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never been a guy that's been into Braun Strowman. I don't like him.
He is exactly like Elias. They had the chance to push him whilst he was
2 years ago.
Hot. Yeah. When in fact, the irony is he was in the feud with Elias when he was playing the big double bass as a guitar.
I was like, he actually has personality, and now he's just I'm the champ.
Flipping trucks and destroying the set and stuff like that.
And now there's slime with Kayla Braxton. I'm like, what is happening here? I don't know. John Morrison, Miz, I like individually. I have no problem with the Miz. I've come around to the Miz in the last few years, and I think he's pretty damn good when he's on. Morrison has a lot of potential to be a lot bigger than that tag team. Braun, I just want to just go away from me. Please, just go away from me. But, I mean, let's just be honest here. 1,000% Braun Strowman is retaining the championship.
Yeah.
There's nothing really else to add on that, is there?
No, let's move on.
Okay, let's move on. Let's move on to a triple threat tag team match for the WWE Women's Tag Team Championships. Bayley and Sasha Banks defending against Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross and the Iconics. Okie dokie. Women's Tag Team Championships. Let's go back to WrestleMania. Alexa Bliss, Nikki Cross defeating Asuka and Kairi Sane. They're on a nice little run. They really didn't have anything until the Iconics came back, and I proceeded to, I'm pretty sure, have a double bypass heart surgery because I needed it after that heart attack I had when they come back. I lost my ass. I found it eventually. The Iconics, we won't talk about that slap that happened. We'll move on from that. Then it seemed like they were building Bliss and Cross and the Iconics, and then all of a sudden, the blue-haired girl and her speak to the manager friend came in and were like, excuse me, we're going to win the tag titles. Okay, I know that some people are very iffy on the Women's Tag Team Championships. And some people were very iffy on this title change being used for nothing more really, Mags, than progressing the Sasha Bayley storyline. We all know where this is going. I don't have a problem with this because I feel like the women's tag team championships are in a pretty prominent role at the moment. They've probably got more shine on them than they have in a little while. I understand they're being used as props, but I mean, they're still in the limelight in some capacity. I guess the question though, Mags, is did Sasha and Bayley really need to win the tag team championships for their story to progress?
Absolutely not. Their story was progressing just fine with Sasha Banks being the simp and Bayley being the Karen. It just didn't need this tag team match, and it kind of I mean, it's an overused phrase, but it kind of buries the Iconics and Nikki and Alexa Bliss because they could have had a feud of their own over the tag team titles, and now they're being dragged into this.
They were having a feud, and it actually seemed like there was a little bit of a story behind the women's tag team championships. Now, yes, granted, I said what I said, and I agree with it. I didn't necessarily think it needed it, but it did add another element. But, like you said, it helps Sasha and Bayley way more than it helps any of the other teams. All right.
This is where I may leave the show.
I may never talk to Mags again because I know what he's going to frickin' say. But let's rewind back to WrestleMania last year. There was a certain team that ended the first reign of Sasha and Bayley, and that was one of Billie Kay and Peyton Royce.
Mm-hmm.
And I had the greatest moment of my wrestling fandom. Does the turn with Sasha and Bayley happen at Backlash? Is it going to happen a little bit later? Who wins this match? What do you see from this match? Also, by the way, Mags, I think this match could be pretty fun in the terms of who's in it. I think it could be a little fun match, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. And watching SmackDown, the promo between the three teams was a highlight. I thought that the Iconics were really good.
Yes, they are. Sorry, Mags, can you say that again, please? I didn't quite catch what you just said.
I thought the Iconics were really good in that promo. It kind of reminded me of the Rock and Austin promo of the Intercontinental title in, I think, that 1996, where Austin was actually behind the Rock, but yet also on the screen. It was that kind of vibe. But yeah, I think that I'm really enjoying the kind of slow face turn of the Iconics. Obviously, they are naturally good as heels, but I think they're absolutely brilliant as the comedic face as well. But, and this is where Josh is probably going to kick me from the show, or at least mute me. He's going to mute me. I think that Bayley and Sasha are going to retain. I think we're going to get a little bit of shenanigans, a little bit of heat. Maybe we'll see Bayley stealing the pin, or maybe we'll see Bayley throwing Sasha to the wolves and kind of eking out the victory, just to build that tension of Sasha the simp and Bayley the kind of dominant. I think we may get the title drop at Extreme Rules, then build to Sasha versus Bayley at SummerSlam. But I just don't think with there being a 2-month build between now and SummerSlam, Bayley versus Sasha is not an Extreme Rules match. It's a SummerSlam match. So we need to keep this kind of storyline going. So I can see the titles being kept on Bayley and Sasha. I can see the completion of the Iconics face turn. The Iconics pick up the titles at Extreme Rules, and then we get Bayley and Sasha at SummerSlam.
All right, well, Queen's in the chat talking about how we should probably let the SmackDown women's division grow around the title without those two. I know there's a lot to be said about WWE putting all their women's wrestling they haven't had an issue with in terms of getting it to prominence and getting it to a mainstream. But they do have an issue with building people that aren't the central 5 or 6. So, and I think they've kind of panicked a little bit with Becky going, Ronda gone, and then them having to put Charlotte back in the title picture on Raw honestly, as much as I love Charlotte, and as much as I will always defend that some people go way overboard with what they say about Charlotte, they panicked and they're like, we got to put Charlotte back in the title picture on Raw because it's lacking, even though they could probably get by with other things. But that's we're not talking about that right now. I'm hearing what you're saying, Mags. I understand. Sasha and Bayley is a program for SummerSlam. Sasha and Bayley, they need to prolong this story as long as they can. Back WrestleMania week of last year, we had predictions and everybody looked at me and everyone was like, Josh, where are you going with this 4-way tag team? What's your prediction for this? And I said, I'm always going to back the Iconics. I can never not because they're just my girls. They're my favorite things about wrestling. Everyone was like, they're not going to win. That's not going to happen. And then everyone was like, oh shit, they won at WrestleMania. So going into this match, and after listening to you, and it makes me very like, to even think about this, but am I going to back the Iconics in this match? Abso-fucking-lutely I am. They're winning the tag team championships and I'm putting that into the earth. When I wake up in the morning, I'm going to wear my Iconics shirt and they're going to steal the win again. And Sasha and Bayley, Bliss and Cross can all go have a little whinge and they can have a little cry on Twitter and the Iconics will stand there and it will be iconic. And I'm going to love it.
I think you are also kind of ignoring a big facet of why I think Bayley and Sasha are going to return. There's obviously this war between AEW and NXT for ratings, and one of the things announced for next week's NXT is that the women's tag team titles are going to be on there. And as much as I love the Iconics and as much as I like Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross, if you want ratings on NXT, you're going to need, out of these three teams, it's going to be Sasha and Bayley that end up on there. Nobody's going to turn over from AEW to watch the Iconics, unfortunately.
Well, I already watch NXT anyway. I'll put a dynamite in that one. So the Iconics, I mean, it's Tegan and Shotzi on NXT, isn't it? You know what scares me? What scares me even more is that the Iconics win tomorrow and then they lose it on NXT. That would make me cry a lot.
If Shotzi picked up those tag team titles with Tegan Nox, I think JBQ would lose his shit.
Oh my god. Although, like, I love Tegan Nox and oh my god, no, Tegan Nox cannot beat the Iconics. I'll never hear the end of it with Kevin. Oh my god.
That would be brilliant.
That would be the worst thing.
Oh, I might change my pick now to the Iconics just for that to happen, but I won't.
Iconic. I can't not say it. The Iconics are going to win tomorrow. Or everyone is for today, but tomorrow in my land, I understand. But they're going to win. They're going to win. Yes, all the Shotzi love in the chat. Let's talk about Shotzi Blackheart for a minute because for some reason, Mags, I've seen very little of her. Admittedly, I've only seen her time in NXT and very briefly independent stuff. But there's just something about her that I just love and I just adore about her. The tank, the aesthetic of her, she looks different to everybody else, which is very important in the women's division and in the men's division. But in the women's division on the main roster, I feel like they categorize women. Blonde, this, that, this, and they're all kind of grouped. On NXT, every single woman is different. And that's what I love about the NXT women's division. It's why I love it so much. But Shotzi she stands out. Her moveset is different. I don't think she's like the greatest thing I've ever seen. That's not what I'm saying. But there's something about Shotzi that I'm just like, I just am drawn to you. What do you think about Shotzi?
I agree. And again, I agree with you in the fact that I don't think her moveset is the best. She's had a couple of times where she's gone for the suicide dive and she's absolutely made me panic because
flip off the top rope. You know the one where she nearly landed on her head? Oh.
Yeah, she does that quite a lot. But she's got character and she's got charisma and you can't help but just be like enthralled by her. When she's in a match, she's the one you're drawn to because she's so outlandish. She's got such a huge presence. She's amazing. I can understand why JPQ stands for Shotzi Blackheart.
JPQ. Shout out to JPQ. Hashtag watch Stardom, of course, for JPQ. If you love JPQ, hashtag watch Stardom. everybody in the chat. We've got a lot going on here. Hello, everybody. I'm not ignoring you. We're just kind of keep the pace of this going. Mags is also reading the chat as well, so we can see what you're saying. We would love a replica tank on WWE Shop as well. It would cost me an arm and a leg in damn shipping. It's like $80 mine to get one t-shirt shipped here, so it's very hard for me to buy stuff off shop unless I'm rolling in gold one week. Unless any of you lovely people want to buy me some merch on WWE Shop and send it my way, I'll happily take it and I won't say no. And I won't feel guilty. So if you want to send it to me, my address is 123 Internet Street. Go ahead. Buy me Iconics merch. That'd be real good. All right, let's...
Do they have any merch?
You bitch. They have plenty of merch. I have one with an Australian flag in it. Oh my god, I didn't say... Oh, I'll say it for you, Queen. Hey, Kayla! There we go. So, oh, by the way, can we talk about something for a minute with one more thing on the Iconics, because I'll talk about them forever, Mags. I don't think I actually had this chat with you from the sound of my voice. You could imagine what it was like when both Billy and Peyton noticed me reciting their promo on Twitter a few weeks back.
Oh my god.
Holy shit.
Fangirled for you because I knew how excited you were.
I started sweating. I was like, oh my god, Peyton knows who I am. We're Iconics all together. We're the trio. I thought that we're going to be best friends, to be completely honest. I lost my whole body. I felt like a noodle. I was like, what's going on at the moment?
Have they messaged you back though?
Listen, I don't know. That's
private conversations.
That's private conversations. That I'm not gonna. We're friends. I'm sorry, Mags, but it's not on that level. That I am with the Iconics. That's, if they want to share that, that's on them, So, but we speak on it. Yeah, you understand. But yes, it was like the height of my life when Peyton retweeted me and then Billy replied, and I was like, oh my god, they know who I am, and I slayed that promo. I've watched that promo a lot. Evolution is a great show, and they were a great part of it. So anyway, moving on. Let's talk about Asuka defending her Raw Women's Championship against Nia Jax. I'm going to say that word in the internet again, Nia Jax, and everyone is going to go insane. Okay, let's talk about Nia Jax, Mags. I don't hate Nia Jax. I've never hated Nia Jax.
Same.
Yes, she can be kind of careless. I understand that, and I don't really agree with her kind of boasting to get heel heat about hurting people. I don't think that's cool at all. However, I've never hated the woman. There's aspects of her that I really enjoy, and she does bring a different presence. She's very different to everybody else within the women's division. Do I wish that she was a little less careless in the ring? Of course. I don't want people to get hurt. But I don't hate her, and I understand why people don't like her, but I can't say that I don't like... I'm not her biggest fan, but I definitely don't hate her. Is that a compliment? I'm not sure.
the most backhand of compliments.
It kind of is.
No, I've always been of that mindset. I've never been someone who has disliked Nia. I've always felt kind of sorry for her in the fact that she was pushed so quick. She didn't really have a lot of chance to learn the art of wrestling in NXT before she was up on the main roster, and she's had to learn whilst working and whilst basically on the fly, and I don't think she's picked it up quick enough, and it's just a shame that she has had these quite big issues with botching. I can't put it all on her. It's not always her fault, but her greenness does come through, unfortunately, and she does bear the brunt of it on social media. But I think also a lot of people look for her to botch rather than kind of enjoying the show and then realising that she's botched. They're kind of waiting on picking her up on something that she's done wrong. So she's under this like massive microscope, I think.
Yeah, and that would be a lot of pressure on someone, Mags. I could imagine. I mean, I'm not a wrestler, but I could imagine that pressure of being like, oh God, if I make a mistake, everybody's going to be on me. And that's a lot of pressure on you to have. However, I do see both sides. I understand why people are like, she's unsafe. She has a track record. But again, I don't dislike her. Now, in the terms of her and Asuka, it's like, I love Asuka and I don't love Nia Jax. Asuka has been one of the shining stars of this COVID era wrestling. I think she's benefited from it in a lot of ways, with just some of the openness she's been able to do. Also, Kana-chan TV, Asuka's YouTube channel, is golden. One of the best YouTube channels ever. It's so good. And the stuff she puts on Twitter is fantastic, some of the stuff. Also, that slap to Charlotte Flair on Raw. Woo! Asuka. That was a nasty slap. Asuka's been fantastic in this era. She's a great next step from Becky to get the Raw Women's Championship. Obviously, would like it in circumstances where Asuka defeated Becky Lynch, but that obviously wasn't an option. Asuka is Raw Women's Champion going into Nia Jax. I'm giving you my prediction right now, Mags. Asuka has to win this. Surely Nia isn't going to win this one.
No, I don't believe that she will. Even for the fact that Nia's a heel, the obvious next challenger is Charlotte Flair, and a heel versus heel dynamic just doesn't work. I think Asuka's the perfect person to put in a match with Nia because she can lead the match, and I think she'll be able to get a really good match out.
They've had good matches in the past, haven't they? From memory, Asuka and Nia have had pretty decent matches both in NXT and even on the main roster. I remember them having a couple of pretty decent matches. Yeah,
they definitely have. Yeah. In terms of this, though, I think Asuka needs a big victory against a big opponent in Nia. There's a lot of flack on the way that she won the Raw Women's title, with it being in the briefcase because of Becky's being pregnant. Mm-hmm. And you can kind of say she was gifted it. I don't really subscribe to that theory. Yeah. I think the issue is that they filmed the Money in the Bank matches so far ahead of time that when Becky announced that she was pregnant, it was just a quick, easy way to switch the titles. It would have been better if it was announced that the Money in the Bank match was for the titles, but I don't think we kind of had that option. So I think Asuka kind of needs this win to solidify her as champion. The only issue is then we're going into a feud with Charlotte, and as much as I love Charlotte, I don't love the fact that Asuka ends up being kind of fodder for Charlotte Flair.
It's obviously where we're going is Charlotte and Asuka. I don't know, I get very defensive of Charlotte Flair, I've noticed. I don't know why. But some of it's warranted, some of it's not. People do get on Charlotte for absolutely everything. It's like, that girl can't do anything with someone being like, she's overpushed, she's this, she's that. Okay, there's an argument maybe that she's overpushed in some sense. Yes, I understand that. However, the saving grace of Charlotte Flair is that Charlotte Flair is very, very, very freaking talented in the ring. There's no denying that. She's one of the most athletic people on the roster, man or woman. She's one of the biggest stars. I think she just has a different level of stardom than people actually realize. Like, Charlotte Flair enters into an arena and you're like, oh, it's game time. You know what I mean? There's not too many people that have that presence, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
well, go on.
If you remember when we had the build up to Ronda versus Becky versus Charlotte, and there was a lot of heat on Charlotte being pushed into that main event, but I believe we had a conversation about it, and we both said she deserved it because she carried that women's division on her back for the best part of a decade, and I still think she's carrying it now. We've had the Becky era, and as good as Becky has been as a character, Charlotte is a far more superior person in ring, and I don't believe that she's been overpushed at all. I think if you've got big stars like this, it looks weird if they're not near the top.
They get you to the next, Charlotte Flair, in my opinion, has been a transitional champion the last few reigns that she's had. Even to a certain degree, the NXT Women's Championship, she got it from one person to another. So I think a lot of the time Charlotte is used in these roles. Yes, okay. If you want to make the argument they're trying to get her to the number of reigns her dad has, why fucking wouldn't you, to be completely honest? It's smart business. And she's been used. Look at the Bayley run, okay? Bayley's been champion twice since Money in the Bank last year. She dropped it to Charlotte, then won it back because it needed for Bayley to turn into this new character. Charlotte was used for that. Becky and Charlotte. Charlotte beat Becky because it needed to get to Bayley. Like, it's just, Charlotte is always used as that middle piece to get to the next step. And people are just like, she has 11 reigns, 10 reigns, whatever it is as champion. And people can't actually take into account that every time she is champion, she's helping somebody else for the most part. And honestly, there would be no Becky Lynch without Charlotte Flair. The reason Becky was as big as she was a direct input from Charlotte Flair, and the stuff she did with Charlotte Flair. So I don't think she's overpushed like people are saying. I personally don't think so. She's used in these roles because she's better than most people, man or woman, in the company. She's relied on because she's reliable. When is Charlotte Flair injured, Mags? There's not many times that I've ever heard of Charlotte Flair being injured. There's not many times I've heard of Charlotte Flair being, unable to work with because of her attitude. There's not many times where Charlotte Flair isn't good in a media situation. She's always putting over the company. She's always doing that. And in her, 6 years of wrestling, who can really be, people would dream to be as good as Charlotte Flair in 6 years of wrestling. They would dream to.
Yeah, absolutely. And the point that I was trying to make was, if you have a wrestler as talented as Charlotte Flair, not having her in the title picture makes absolutely no sense in the world. It's the Roman Reigns argument. We give him a lot of grief for Roman being in that talent picture, but he's a star.
He doesn't have bad matches, Mags. He does not have bad matches. Charlotte Flair doesn't really have. You can put Charlotte Flair in the ring with nearly anybody, and you're going to get a good to great match out of nearly anybody.
Yeah, she's so diverse in the ring. She can have a great match with one of the smaller women like Alexa Bliss or Asuka, but then she can also have a really good match with the likes of Lacey Evans or the likes of Nia Jax. So yeah, it absolutely makes sense to have someone with her caliber front and center of your division. I totally get it. But I can also see the point where she's because she's always front and center. If someone's never aware, how can you kind of miss them?
Yes, I agree with that. I do get that. I understand that. Absence does make the heart grow fonder. I get that, definitely. There's a big part of me that thinks that Asuka's going to win here against Nia Jax at Backlash. She's going to drop the title to Extreme Rules, and the SummerSlam Raw Women's Championship match is Charlotte Flair and Shayna Baszler.
Interesting.
That's how I see this going. I understand some people aren't going to be hella into that. I can't say that I wouldn't be into it, but it doesn't really do a lot for Asuka.
No, I would probably one-up that, and I'd think if Asuka's going to drop at Extreme Rules, I don't think you can just drop her straight out of the title picture. I would probably go with a Flair, Shayna, Asuka triple threat.
I wouldn't hate that. That'd probably be, honestly, I love triple threats. I think I've said that to you last week's stream. Triple threats are my favorite type of match. I love them when they're done properly. I really, really enjoy them. By the way, speaking of Charlotte Flair, did you enjoy the triple threat main event from TakeOver?
Not
the answer I was expecting.
I didn't enjoy it because I felt, and this is going to go against totally everything I've just said about Charlotte Flair, but I felt that Charlotte Flair was the weak point in that match. I felt that her selling was sloppy. I don't think she led the match as well as I've seen her lead the match. The result was the right result. Having Io Shirai as champion, it's probably about 6 months to a year in the making. So that I can understand. I can understand that we're going to get Rhea versus Io afterwards. So that's cool. But it's hard to explain, but I just didn't enjoy the kind of flow of the match.
I understand. I really enjoyed the match. There were some bits, I agree. Charlotte was probably the weaker one out of the three. But it was only in small little segments, and I enjoyed the match overall. But that's, I guess, wrestling is subjective, so people find things that they don't like, they do like, so whatever. But over under, Mags, final prediction. Asuka beats Nia here. I think that's where we're both kind of in the zone with.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about Drew McIntyre and one Bobby Lashley WWE Championship match. Drew McIntyre, WWE Championship, or WWE Champion, I should say, I've really enjoyed it. And that's not coming from the biggest fan of Drew McIntyre. I've said that before. Me and Kevin, both on Wrestling Reverb, have said that we didn't dislike Drew, but we weren't just like everybody else, like loving Drew. But he's impressed me since he's a great WWE champion, especially in this era of COVIDness. COVIDness?
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about Drew as champion?
As champion, as a fellow Brit, I've loved him as champion. It's been something new. It's been something interesting. It's someone who has been primed for that position since his first run in WWE, when he was handpicked by Vince to be the guy who leads the company. So I've enjoyed it, but this match gives me some horrible feelings in the pit of my stomach.
Don't say it. Don't you dare say it. Don't you say it.
There's just all this kind of all this Bruce Pritchard stuff, this falling ratings, the Vince needing a scapegoat. Oh, I just can't shift the feeling that we're going to get a Bobby Lashley win.
I think this one. Oh, Jesus Christ! Why'd you have to say that? Because now that makes my mind.
Let me explain.
Yeah, no, go on.
Answer. And for all for a context, I want personally, I want Drew to win, but my mind is saying with Paul Heyman clearly being someone who really favoured Drew, kind of pushed for him to be the person who went over Brock, and apparently he was the person who convinced Brock that this is the guy to take over. Yeah, he's been fired, and now he's been he's been demoted to on screen. Now Paul Heyman is not a wrestler, so we're not likely to see him in the ring. So the only time we see him on screen is when he has his advocate for Brock Lesnar. So that to me says Vince is kind of going back to TARP. He's worried about the ratings dropping, which unfair to Drew. The champion always gets the blame for it. We saw it with Kofi. The rating was dropping whilst Kofi was champion. Suddenly Brock was back and took the title. I can't shake that feeling that we're going to get to that position again. There's been a lot of rumours about Bobby Lashley really pushing for a Brock versus Bobby feud. Bobby's been doing the most interesting work that he's had in probably in all of his WWE career with MVP. I think they've really got a good chemistry going, and it just all the kind of pieces are fitting together that we're gonna see the build up for SummerSlam being Bobby versus a returning Brock Lesnar, and I think we're gonna see Drew drop the title. And it's going to hurt like a bitch.
Mags, I don't like saying this word very much, but I've never hated you more. Because it makes sense. That makes freaking sense. And I hate horrible. It. That makes
it's horrible that it makes sense.
Ugh. You know what? Like, okay, let's talk ratings and stuff like that. I understand. I'm not one to like pay attention to ratings, but of course I see them. They're all over the internet. We love the brand split. We love all these champions running around. We love Drew. We love Asuka. But are they delivering ratings? No, it's not happening. it's not like ratings are skyrocketing. So I'm trying to get in the sense of WWE world, and I know a lot of people will not understand this and they will not agree with me at all, because the internet is a minority of wrestling fans. I hate to say that because I'm a part of it and I love the community, but it is a minority, and it's not what WWE especially are necessarily looking at. They're focusing on it a little bit because they do cater to us in some areas, but it's not like we're skyrocketing ratings, getting 3-4 million viewers a week. That's not happening. It's on a slow decline every single time Raw, SmackDown, NXT, AEW air. It's just getting smaller and smaller. So I understand where they're coming from. Where it's like, well, Heyman's got to go. When we got to bring Bruce Pritchard in. Because maybe in a casual audience world, maybe the stuff that is like Jeff Hardy pissing into a cup, maybe that does better ratings than, say, AJ and Daniel Bryan having a classic. Maybe it does. We don't know that from a business aspect. I'm not saying it does, and I'm not saying I much would prefer AJ and Bryan wrestling for 30 minutes than seeing him piss in a cup. But we don't know what caters to something outside of a wrestling fan's bubble. One of my favorite things that I do is talk to people that don't watch wrestling because they know I love wrestling, and asking them to watch wrestling. Asking them, just come to my house, let's watch wrestling. Just sit and just observe. It's my favorite thing in the world to do. And it's funny what they gravitate towards as opposed to what you and I mag. So, we'll go to a Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker match at WrestleMania 25 and we'll sit there like, oh my God. A casual fan might go, what's going on here? I don't really understand this. But they might love the Stephanie and Test wedding more than they love that match. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
I think that's why I like different stuff in wrestling as much as I do. I like that entertainment side. It's because I see how casual fans react. So, back to Bobby and Drew here. Maybe Drew McIntyre doesn't appease that side of the audience. He might get to us and go, oh, we love Drew and he's what we want. But maybe on the grand scheme of things, it's not what we want. Bobby Lashley, is that what casual fans want? Also, he does have a slight career in a background in MMA. He was on Bellator or something, wasn't he? You're the MMA guy, not me.
Unbeaten.
So that might be an appeal to legitimate. Vince McMahon is always looking to make wrestling legitimate. He always is. In the back of his mind, he wants it to be as real as possible. Bobby Lashley, Brock Lesnar are real. There was a reason why Ronda Rousey was champion for a whole year, is because she brings a side of legitimacy that not a lot of people can bring to professional wrestling.
It's why he goes back to the Brock Lesnar well all the time.
Yep, and it works. Because when Brock's on the screen, I understand this isn't popular, and I don't necessarily agree with it, but I think Brock does deliver somewhat ratings. And that's all at the end of the day, that's what WWE want. The more people that watch their television product means the more people that will buy their network, and it's the more money they have to put back into the product and into their pockets.
And I don't even think it's just as simple as the ratings anymore. It's the YouTube numbers.
It's the social media numbers and their interactions on social medias. It's who's getting tagged the most. There's so much more than just a wrestling match. And I think that's why people get disconnected from WWE.
Correct. And going back to the Jeff Hardy swilling Sheamus segment, I can almost guarantee that on YouTube, that clip got more hits and more views than AJ versus Daniel Bryan in a potentially a 5-star match, because it's funny and it's light-hearted and it would appeal to casuals. Yes. And that's why WWE are going to that well all the time. And we, in this kind of small microcosm of fans who are clamoring for a better product, we're not the ones that WWE are aiming for. They're aiming for those people who watch on YouTube and they want them to come and watch the full show. We're always going to watch, whether we like it or we don't like it. We're always going to critique it, or we're always going to say what we enjoyed. But we're not the target audience. They want more people in, and the way to get that is having these silly segments and having big name wrestlers.
Yeah, and that's why I think when people interact with me on Twitter, one of the things I pride on is that I just watch WWE for what's on my screen and react accordingly instead of looking into it too much, because I understand that I'm not necessarily their key audience that they're trying to get. People younger than me are, and a casual fan is what they're more trying to get, because a casual fan will want that kind of that kind of craziness and that kind of silliness to keep them watching. A casual fan will not sit through and just watch great wrestling because they don't understand it. We will, but we'll also watch the crap. So that's wrestling. You take what you take with it. So I think that's where the disconnect with WWE is. And even when they do things right, people are still going to whinge and have a complaint. Us included, Mags. We always like to have a nice little complaint. But I feel like we're a little different, but I feel like we are on similar pages about WWE not necessarily being targeted at us.
No. And then that leads into the main event.
Oh boy. All right. Well, Bobby Drew. Final. Are you going? So you're going, Bobby. Are you going to say it out loud?
Oh, I mean, we're both in the Josh and Stu prediction contest, and I've put Bobby on that because I think it's going to get points.
Max, no. Oh man.
So I'm going for Bobby. Unfortunately, everything is saying to me, no, don't do it. But thinking about it logically, Bobby makes all the sense in the world.
Ugh. I hate it because you've made so much sense to me. You've almost convinced me that it's like, why would Drew win? I'm going to go Drew for the sake of being different and because I just don't want to say that sentence and I don't want to hear it. So
even though we have this kind of friendly rivalry, I would be happy to concede. If Drew wins, I would be happy to eat crow and say,
Mags,
thank God you were right.
I'll never not listen to you ever again. I think you're like a wrestling fucking god. I'll be like, yeah, nah, listen to this dude. I hated that conversation. Thank you very much for that. I truly, truly despise everything about that just because it's just disgusting to think about. But it could happen. And to be fair to Bobby, him and MVP are very good together. They are. Which I also hate admitting because I don't really care for MVP either, to be completely honest. But I'll go Drew just because I don't want to put that into the universe. Do you expect much from that match, by the way?
I mean, Drew's had some really good matches. He really, really has.
I like how you didn't put Bobby over. Just Drew.
Do you know, I remember Bobby from his time in TNA when he was really dominant, and he was someone who you were excited to watch. Yep. And then he came back to the main roster, and it was kind of this formulaic, just big, beefy, strong bloke. His time with Leo Rush didn't get over with me. His time with Lana didn't really get over with me. But I'm more invested with him now with MVP than I've ever been invested in him. So, I mean, he has decent matches. He's never going to set the world on fire with his skill. But if you want someone who looks like a big powerhouse, like a horse, he ticks all them boxes. So this should be a fairly decent match.
Yeah, I'm actually looking at the card from top to bottom. There's nothing on here that's going to be like awful at all, to be completely honest. Like, the 7 matches that are announced, look good, and the 6 we talked about look really good, but the 7th match is the greatest wrestling match ever. Pat on the damn back, Josh. You didn't stutter at all in that. You got to the next segment.
It's the greatest match in the world. No.
This is the greatest show. That's the fucking theme song for this damn show. So, the greatest wrestling match ever. Okay. Edge, Randy Orton, 2 men that are honestly very good, and they can go out and have a great match, but no match can subjectively be the greatest wrestling match ever. That's just, no one's ever going to agree. However, WWE are very smart business people, because now if you type that into Google, that's what's going to come up, and they're very smart for that, and I cannot fault them for that, and anyone that says anything different can eat my whole ass, because they're very smart. If you type in the greatest wrestling match ever, WWE Network comes up everywhere, and you're going to want to watch this. So I give them 10 out of 10 on marketing on that. No matter what these two do in the ring, it's obviously not, that's the point. It's not going to live up to the hype. I'm fully convinced, Mags. I said to you this last week. I've said it many times. This match is going for 10 seconds. It's going to be a spear or it's going to be an RKO. I can't decide which one it's going to be, but it's going to be over very, very quickly. That's how I see this going. But
okay. I think you're incredibly wrong because the rumor is that it's been pre-filmed and it's rumored to go longer than the Mania match.
Well, then we're in for a time. I know some people weren't fans of the Last Man. I liked their Last Man Standing match. I thought it was very good. It probably went a little long, but I thought it was the ending alone was really good. Now it's weird to say that we've seen Edge in 2 matches in this last 9 years, and none of them have involved pinfalls. It's weird. How do you feel? Well, okay. Actually, let me rephrase that. How do you see this going in the terms of we're going from Edge returning in the Rumble and that stuff with Randy, then all of the stuff with Beth and all of the great stuff that Randy was doing up until WrestleMania, their Last Man Standing match, then they had a bit of a break, and now they're back, and now they're having a regular match. A lot of people are very critical of the fact that it's kind of backwards in the terms of you should always go from a singles match to a gimmick match. I understand the story here, and it's like, well, Edge hasn't wrestled. Can he still do a normal singles, a normal singles match? Can he still do it? That's the kind of story they're trying to portray. And then they marketed it as the greatest wrestling match ever. When Charlie Caruso said that, I was like, why does she keep repeating that? Why does she keep saying that in that one segment? And then, all of this happened, and now we're mere hours away from the greatest wrestling match ever, which we cannot say, by the way, Mags, isn't true because we haven't seen it. So, just putting that out there. We can't say that it's not the greatest wrestling match ever because we, in fact, have not seen it. But, I mean, it's up there. No pressure, lads. No pressure.
I love the fact that they've both leaned into this on social media about it. Edge's comments have been absolutely brilliant. I've just read my child a bedtime story, and it was the greatest bedtime story ever. I've just woke up in the morning and I've just had a cup of coffee, and it was the greatest cup of coffee ever. That's been brilliant.
Randy Orton fucked around, bought a plane.
Yeah, and saying this match is either going to be the best match ever or it's going to shit the bed. I love him. I love him. The way they've built this up has been brilliant. The segment with Christian where he was kind of trying to anger Edge into performing. Is it going to be a Steamboat versus a Savage style kind of Kenny Omega versus Okada match? Absolutely not. It's not going to be the greatest match ever, but it's brilliant marketing, and I can't fault WWE for it. It's how has no other company jumped on this before and realised that if you market something as the greatest match ever, it's going to get these hits. And like you said, it draws eyes to the product.
Yeah, you can't fault them because people know what wrestling is. Everybody in the world knows what wrestling is. So if you type in what is the best match ever, this is going to come up. And that's, you can't, I don't hate on this at all. I don't hate it at all. In fact, I find it kind of comical. I find it funny. Yeah. I find it funny. I'm just like, this is great. Why wouldn't you call it that? No one's really ever going to agree on like what is the greatest wrestling match ever, because at the end of the day, what really is a great wrestling match? Because there's all different kinds of great wrestling matches. So it just depends on the person. It's like music. No one's ever really going to agree on what is the greatest song ever.
It's all subjectivity.
Yeah, super. Wrestling is subjective. Now, honestly, Mags, I find this one really freaking hard to pick. Because there's reasons for both why you would win. Do you want Randy to win so you can kind of stretch this further? Do you want Edge to win his first wrestling match back in 9 years? Do you want to do something screwy with DQs? Do you want to... It's really hard to pick, and it's been one that I'm kind of like scratching my head a little bit like, hello, who do I pick here? I personally have decided that Randy is going to be the one that wins, but where's your headspace on this?
Yeah, I think after the WrestleMania match where Edge picked up the win, I think that Randy needs, if we're going to continue the storyline, and it looks very likely that we are. I can't see Backlash being the end of Edge's big comeback story. It's got to be a big show, and the next biggest show is obviously SummerSlam. So I think we build to a rubber match, which says that Orton wins. But I don't like the thought of Edge losing his first legitimate wrestling match clean. So I think there's going to be some sort of shenanigans. And now go along with me for this. I mean, you went along with me with the Drew and Bobby theory, so kind of just stick with me with this one. I think we're going to get some interference. Randy's been kicking up a lot of dust and throwing a lot of shade towards NXT and towards a certain member of NXT, someone who's kind of now free of a storyline, someone who's kind of in a position where they maybe could come away from NXT for a little while, and that's Tommaso Ciampa. He obviously had the big loss to Karrion Kross, but since then he's been having this Twitter feud with Randy Orton. Now the reports were that Vince was fuming about this because he doesn't like his wrestlers to be having these public beefs if there's no build to a storyline. But then there's other rumors saying that there's NXT guys ready to move up to main roster, and Tommaso Ciampa's name has been mentioned more than once. I would love for Tommaso to come and interfere, attack Randy, meaning he'll pick up the DQ victory, meaning that Edge gets his loss, but it's not a clean loss, so he hasn't lost in terms of wrestling. But Randy then gets the 1-on-1, and we get a rubber match in SummerSlam, and that can build the Randy versus Tommaso Ciampa feud as well.
I'm not on your team for this one, Mags. I'm sorry.
Oh, I thought I could sell it to you.
I'm not, because Tommaso Ciampa has come out publicly many times and said his neck cannot take a WWE schedule. NXT is for him for that sole reason. He said he'd retire if he ever got called up.
Yeah, I mean, I remember all that, but it's also...
It's wrestling.
There's no smoke without fire.
Yeah. I wouldn't be opposed to it. I'd be very much for it, but nah. I don't see it happening here. I won't agree with you on that one. I'll agree. I'll cut the line at this one, but I'll agree with you on Bobby Damn Lashley. But you know what's weird about this here is that this will probably if you know these reports, I didn't even see these reports about it already being filmed in that because I live under a rock with dirt sheets. So it probably will be fairly good, this match. It probably will be. It's not like these two suck. They certainly do not suck. When Randy's on, I don't think there's many people that are actually better than Randy Orton. And it's Edge. We're on that nostalgia kick of like, can Edge still work a decent wrestling match? I'm pretty certain that he can. So I don't think this is going to be bad at all. I think it'll be honestly pretty decent. But they could go out there and try their hardest, but I don't think we're going to be saying, well, actually, it'll always be known as the greatest wrestling match ever, won't it? It'll be that time
even if it's a Meltzer 1-star match, its tagline is the greatest match ever.
Yeah, so we're always going to be like, oh, remember Backlash last year? It had the greatest wrestling match ever. So they've done their job.
Correct.
They've sold this show on this match alone. This is the main event, right? Surely.
It's got to be.
There's no way it can't be. I would be fine with it being the main event, to be honest. I don't dislike Randy Orton. I think he can get a little Randy, but, you know, I like Randy. And I love Edge because it's Edge. So I have no problem with this going on last, do you?
No, absolutely not. Yeah. It makes sense. It's what the show's been built around.
Yeah, I have no problem with it. Overall, though, again, I don't think Backlash is... I'm not looking forward to Backlash like it's damn WrestleMania or something like that, but I think it's going to be a fine show, to be honest. I've said this many times, and you agree with me, Mags. WWE do not have a problem with their pay-per-views. Their pay-per-views generally, I should say, deliver for the most part. There's stinkers, but everyone has stinkers.
And I think this, especially coming off the back of last week's takeover, which, as good as it were, it didn't hit the levels of a standard takeover. I think Backlash doesn't have that to live up to anymore. So we can kind of go into it with a fresh set of eyes, almost like just turn your brain off. Watch some what should be very, very good wrestling, and hopefully we'll get some storylines coming out of it, some continuation storylines heading into Extreme Rules and into SummerSlam.
SummerSlam season. It's always that little gap between Mania and like whatever this pay-per-view is in June that kind of gets a little bit like stagnant, and then we pick up towards SummerSlam, especially with the idea of, could you see SummerSlam being in an arena? I'm not saying with 10,000 fans, but I'm talking like in an arena with, maybe 40% capacity in an arena or something like that. Could you see that being, I don't know, smart? Is that dumb of me to say? I don't know.
No, I agree, and I think that's the thing that WWE are aiming for in an ideal world, that SummerSlam will be the event that we return to an arena.
Yeah. Who knows? There's so much going on in the world right now that we really don't know what's going to happen between now and August. So, the apparently conspiracy theorists are saying that the freaking world's going to end this week. So, honestly, it wouldn't be the worst thing that's happened in 2020. So, fucking try me, 2020. You've done enough. So, bring it on. A media sounds like a fucking holiday at this point, doesn't it? But overall, I'm looking forward to it. It's 7 hours, 8 hours away, 9 hours. I don't really know how long we've got to go, but I'm gonna go have a sleep soon. I thank everyone for joining us in the chat. We had a nice chat with everybody, and we hope you enjoy Backlash. We'll be on the Twitters. Is that what all these cool kids say? I don't know. I'm getting older, Mags. Not as old as you. For fuck's sake, but I'm getting there. Yeah, well, what do you expect, Mags? What do you expect at this point? I thank you, of course, for being here, Mags. This is we got a nice little duo going on here, don't we? Nice little
we do. It's really, really fun. I enjoy it.
Free flowing, isn't it?
I'll enjoy the 2 or 3 weeks break away from you till we get to Extreme Rules.
Can't handle you every week. No, thank you. I'd be like, media, come on.
Sometimes.
Oh yes, absolutely. I'm too much always. I'm very extra. But hey, that's why you love me, isn't it, Mags?
Yeah.
All right, mister. You got some heat on you for fucking wanting Bobby Lashley to go over here, so...
Yeah, but you agreed, so...
I don't know about that. That's not on record. That was off the record, so it doesn't count. It doesn't count. But no, thank you, Mags, for joining me. Of course, we'll be back for Extreme Rules predictions in however long that show is. I don't know how long. 4 weeks away, probably, I'd assume.
Yeah, honestly, 3 or 4 weeks, I think.
I don't know at this point. But we'll be back for that, and then we're in the build to SummerSlam. Mags, have you got anything you want to put over before we go away? What have you got coming up? Anything cool?
Yeah, well, that we were involved in some. We were involved in some pretty hot Twitter beef pretty recently. Started by you.
Yes, I started that. I lit the fucking fire. I know.
And then ran away like
I
a
did.
baby back
I felt so bad. I never start arguments, and I was like, oh well, guess what? I'm going to for once because it pissed me off.
But we were in agreement. We kind of like read the right act to someone, and they folded like a deck of cards. So now it looks like we may be doing a podcast awards, possibly. I think we're going to have a group meeting between a few creators to see how the land lies, see what kind of format we can come up with. So that's coming out hopefully in the near future. We want to be as open and honest with the community as we can, because I think that was the issue with the other podcast, was that there was not a lot of openness, and it seemed quite underhanded and maybe sneaky, and there were just some glaring issues with it, and we don't want to have that. We want the community to be able to sing its praises to itself. So yeah, maybe that'll happen now, but we'll definitely keep the community informed. Other than that, it's all engines go at Team Mags. I've got podcast after podcast after podcast coming out. I'm on these amazing networks which I keep providing content for, and yeah, I'm living my best podcast life over on Visionaries Global Media, on Chairshot, and on SmartDef. So yeah, come over, follow me on Twitter at DJ Kirkby. Come and check out my content. I absolutely love doing it, and I love getting the feedback of what other people think. So yeah, come and check me out.
Yeah, go and check out Mags' stuff. I love Mags sometimes, so you can go and check out his stuff. I love his shows, so do that. Anyone that isn't already, but I'm pretty sure you all are. Of course, you can check out my stuff. Pretty much you know where to find me at this point. Josh Robinson 00 on Twitter. Follow my cat on Twitter. She's a real piece of shit. So you can follow her. Giddy Robinson 00. I'll promote her stuff. She's looking at me over there right now like, you better fucking put me over, you little bitch. She's staring at me like right into my soul.
And also share Josh on Twitter, because he's so close to 4,000. He can see the figure in front of him, and he's in touching distance. So yeah, go and get him to 4,000, and then afterwards unfollow him so he drops back down.
It keeps friggin' happening to me. I keep getting the 381, and then I lose 10 followers because I post something, and then I'm just like, what's going on here? But I am close to 4,000, and it's just, I know it's just a number, but it's just something that I can be like, oh, I have 4,000 Twitter followers. That's kind of nice. Yeah. But follow me on Twitter. Everybody should be following me on Twitter. I post great stuff from TikTok. Yikes. I post great content.
He's going to sing. He's going to do a song if you get him to 4,000.
I will sing all damn day. I don't give a fuck. I don't really have much shame. Anything, I wouldn't say any. You can see anything you want, because that's not true. That you can sub to my OnlyFans for that. I'm close to 4 followers on there.
Dick pics at 4,000. Wow.
Yeah, I'll release my dick pics at 4,000. There you go. No, but follow me on Twitter. I'm kind of fun. I'll always have a conversation. And I guess I now am that person that will call you out if you're kind of an asshole.
And then run away apologizing.
Well, I apologized because I felt I was kind of in the wrong to call people out. Because who am I, really, at the end of the day?
Well, all you did, you were like, Max, come and look at this, and I was like, oh God!
I knew Max would get angry, and then he would take over.
You just backed away. Yeah,
I see my piece.
You, Alexa Bliss, and Nikki Crossed me in that situation. I think you loaded the gun and got me to fire, and then you were like, "Not me, Your Honor."
Yeah, no, I'll happily throw someone right under that bus. I don't give a fuck. No, I said my piece. Mags also said his piece. Just a little more.
As pieces.
I said my bit though. But yes. What was I promoting? Oh, I have a network of shows if you want to listen to podcasts. You can follow me right here on Twitch as well. I play games sometimes, and I'm very bad at them, but it's fun. And it's here for the vibes and stuff like that, so you get good vibes. But yeah, I have a whole network of shows. Go and listen to them if you want to. Follow me on YouTube, all of that good kind of stuff. And we'll be back for Extreme Rules. Thank you everyone for joining. Enjoy Backlash, and enjoy the greatest wrestling match ever. Goodbye, everybody.